Throughout history, knowledge has been the most fiercely guarded possession of empires, churches, and secret societies. The more powerful the knowledge, the more tightly it is sealed, hidden behind walls, beneath ruins, or within vaults. But among the most enigmatic of these vaults lies beneath the Vatican itself. The Vatican Apostolic Archive, once known as the Vatican Secret Archive, is perhaps the most controversial and speculated archive on Earth. Spanning over 50 miles of shelving and housing over 35,000 volumes, this repository of documents dates back more than 12 centuries. While the Vatican insists it is merely a historical library, countless independent researchers and historians claim otherwise. Within these corridors of controlled access, theories speak of forbidden texts, suppressed knowledge, and more curiously, ancient Sumerian tablets that, if authentic, could drastically alter our understanding of human history, religion, and the origin of civilization. But how could such artifacts end up here? And why would the Catholic Church, a monotheistic institution, keep relics from a polytheistic Mesopotamian culture? To answer that, we must go back, not just to the time of ancient Sumer, but to the 19th century, when the ruins of Mesopotamia were being unearthed by European archaeologists. In the mid-1800s, expeditions into the ruins of Nineveh, Ur, and Babylon began uncovering thousands of clay tablets. Written in cuneiform, the world's earliest known system of writing, these tablets held myths, royal decrees, astronomical records, and religious texts. Among them was the now famous Enuma Elish, the Sumerian Babylonian creation epic that predates the Book of Genesis. At the time, these discoveries were celebrated in the academic world, but not everyone was pleased. Many of the stories inscribed on these tablets bore striking similarities to the narratives found in the Hebrew Bible. Tales of a great flood, a paradise lost, even a divine council of gods, led not by one deity, but many. This raised a problem. If these texts were older than the Bible and yet contained similar myths, what did that imply about the origins of religious scripture? It was during this era, according to fringe historians and alternative researchers, that certain classified tablets, reportedly containing more radical accounts of humanity's creation and the role of non-human entities, were quietly removed from public knowledge. While the British Museum, the Louvre, and the Pergamon Museum displayed thousands of tablets, there were rumors that several key pieces were never catalogued publicly. Some claim these tablets were intercepted by representatives of the Vatican or acquired indirectly through donations from noble European families with connections to the Church. Others point to documents from Jesuit scholars who traveled extensively through the Middle East in the 19th and early 20th centuries, documenting findings that were never published. Of course, these claims are difficult to verify. The Vatican Archive does not make its full catalogue publicly searchable. Scholars must apply for access, and even then, they are limited to pre-selected documents unless they can provide a precise title and justification. In effect, the contents of the archive remain mostly unknown, even to researchers. And so the question lingers, is it possible that the Vatican, as the central institution of global Catholicism, has preserved ancient Sumerian knowledge that could challenge the very foundation of Abrahamic belief systems? Whether as a means of protecting faith, controlling historical narrative, or simply safeguarding dangerous knowledge, the motive remains unclear. But the rumors persist, and they point toward a deeper connection between the lost civilizations of the Fertile Crescent and the seat of modern religious power. According to the ancient Sumerians, humanity was not the product of divine inspiration, but of calculated intervention. Among the thousands of cuneiform tablets uncovered in Mesopotamia, particularly in the ruins of Nippur, Eridu, and Sippar, some contain detailed accounts of a group of powerful godlike beings known as the Anunnaki. These entities, whose name translates roughly to those who came from the heavens, were said to have descended to earth in the distant past, bringing with them advanced knowledge, technology, and a strict hierarchical order. In texts such as the Atrahasis and the Sumerian King List, the Anunnaki are described not as mythological abstractions, but as rulers with distinct names, purposes, and lineages. According to these writings, they engineered humanity to serve them, fashioning mankind from clay and divine essence to carry out labor, mine resources, and maintain the infrastructure of early Sumerian civilization. This narrative directly conflicts with the creation accounts in the book of Genesis, which depicts a singular omnipotent deity creating man in his image for companionship and stewardship. The Sumerian version, by contrast, paints humanity as the byproduct of a cosmic workforce management decision. But perhaps the most unsettling aspect of these myths lies in the recurring theme of lost knowledge, knowledge once shared with humans, then later withdrawn. The Anunnaki, particularly the god Enki, are portrayed as guardians of esoteric wisdom, astronomy, medicine, mathematics, and even the structure of the universe itself. This knowledge was not freely given. It was restricted, conditional, and in some cases deliberately erased. Some tablets mention a catastrophic event, a great flood, unleashed to wipe out humanity after it began to learn too much, multiply too fast, or challenge the divine order. This echoes the biblical story of the flood, but with a different motive, not divine disappointment, but strategic reset. If such knowledge truly existed, it would explain the extraordinary astronomical alignments of ancient monuments, the sudden rise of complex languages, and humanity's rapid leap into structured civilization. And here is where the Vatican theory grows more provocative. It is believed by some that the missing tablets stored within the Vatican do not merely recount mythological tales, but encode specific information, mathematical formulas, cosmic maps, genetic concepts that could alter our understanding of science and history. Supporters of this theory cite obscure correspondences from early Jesuit missionaries who described finding strange pagan writings in Syria and Iraq. Some of these writings were said to contain descriptions of flying machines, stargates, and beings not native to Earth. These accounts were never formally published in academic circles. They exist only in letters, travel logs, or fragmented second-hand sources, if they exist at all. This lack of verifiability is precisely what fuels both skepticism and curiosity. Mainstream historians rightly caution against reading too literally into mythology. The Anunnaki, they argue, could be symbolic representations of natural forces, celestial events, or ancestral memory. But the consistency of these stories across cultures, from Sumer to Akkad, from Egypt to the Indus Valley, raises questions that simple metaphor cannot fully answer. If the Sumerians believed they were created by powerful beings who walked among them, ruled them, and taught them how to build civilization, is it possible that this was more than mythology? What if the knowledge the Anunnaki bestowed, then rescinded, was real? And what if that knowledge still exists, hidden from the world, guarded by institutions that stand to lose everything if it were revealed? As we look deeper into these ancient narratives, one cannot ignore the parallels between the Sumerian myths and later religious texts, not just in content, but in their apparent suppression or modification. The Enochian writings, for example, which circulated in various forms during the early centuries CE, recount stories strikingly similar to the Anunnaki legends. Enoch, a biblical figure described as a righteous man who walked with God, is portrayed as having been taken up to heaven, shown divine secrets, and entrusted with knowledge forbidden to mankind. Some researchers argue that the Book of Enoch and related apocryphal texts were deliberately excluded from the canonical Bible, precisely because they challenged the official narrative about humanity's origin and relationship with the divine. These apocryphal texts detail the presence of watchers, celestial beings who descended to earth, taught forbidden knowledge, and corrupted humanity. This is almost a mirror image of the Anunnaki's depiction as both benefactors and oppressors. The Vatican's possible possession of tablets or manuscripts describing these themes adds a layer of intrigue to the centuries-old debate about how religious orthodoxy was shaped and what stories were erased or altered. Why would an institution rooted in faith conceal texts that could destabilize its foundational doctrines? One theory suggests that the Church viewed these ancient records as dangerous not because they were false, but because they revealed a complex polytheistic origin of humanity and implied that divine power was not absolute, but shared among many entities. Maintaining a singular, omnipotent deity's narrative was essential to uphold the Church's authority and unity among believers. Furthermore, some hypothesize that the Vatican Archives may also hold documents relating to esoteric knowledge, alchemical recipes, mystical codes, or even records of secret societies that claim descent from these ancient powers. The interplay between myth, religion, and political control thus becomes clear. Knowledge is power, and controlling the origin stories means controlling people's beliefs and behaviors. As modern historians, archaeologists, and scholars continue to unearth new findings and decode ancient languages, these hidden tablets remain out of reach, shielded behind layers of secrecy. Whether the Vatican truly possesses such artifacts, or whether the idea remains a compelling myth, is difficult to prove definitively. But the convergence of historical facts, oral traditions, and the persistent silence on these subjects invites us to keep questioning. What if history is only part of the story? What if the truth lies buried beneath the surface, waiting for those willing to seek it?